We're live again from the stands. Welcome back, and everybody. We had such a great time last week doing the live show on YouTube. We said, let's just do it like that from now on. You notice we got a couple familiar faces up here. I'm Will Rainier, Will from the stands on Reddit. I'm a diehard Oklahoma State fan living under duress in Austin, Texas. And over here to your right, we have a new face joining us today. Lisa, tell us about yourself.
There we go. Hi, I'm Lisa. I am a NDSU Bison fan first and foremost, and my FBS team is actually Michigan.
Not Kansas State.
Kansas State is a new second.
Yeah. I was really hoping we could get you and Mikey on here to talk a little Kansas State, but we bumped you because Kansas State has the tiebreaker over. Up to Pennsylvania. JJ, what you got for us?
JJ Apostolico, living in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia for those in State College. Really nervous for this week. And I guess last week didn't really do me any favors, make me feel any better. But we're ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to talk some things through. Maybe I'll feel a little better after I get it out of my system.
All right, this show's for you then, JJ, and all State fans out there in Little Nazareth. What was your guys' big takeaway from last week, though? Some really good games. We mentioned the OU game a little bit. Duncan, our producer, I'm surprised he's still standing. You know, I figured he'd still be drinking himself into an oblivion. But what was your biggest takeaway, Lisa, from last week's game?
Last week it was probably that Minnesota is always going to break your heart, no matter how good you think they are. It wasn't a wide left kick this time, but let's be fair. Minnesota's always going to break your heart. No 10-0.
JJ?
I think my biggest takeaway was from the Oklahoma Baylor game. I think the Big 12 is done. I think the Big 12 is going to need a lot of chaos in order to get into the playoff now. The way, if Baylor would have won convincingly, like they came out, 28-3, all the memes and everything else, but if they would have actually came out and finished that start, they actually would have, I think they would have put themselves in position to be in the driver's seat for a playoff spot. But the way Oklahoma got thoroughly dominated for a half, and the way Oklahoma has been thoroughly dominated for several halves throughout the football season so far this year, I think they've shown that they're not a top 4 team. Even if they do end up finishing 12-1, they will be the weakest 12-1. So they're going to need a lot to happen in front of them. And I don't even know if Mac Jones puts on a show, we may see some chaos there, and they might even stay ahead of Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's actually my biggest takeaway. So just a rest in peace to Tua on his career. We may have seen him for the very last time as an Alabama football player. Definitely wish him the best of luck in his recovery. But I think the committee is going to hurt. I think that him leaving that is going to hurt Alabama's chances of making a playoff. I think the committee is going to take that into consideration when they go to rank. And so
Mac Jones is going to need to put on a show against Auburn.
Yeah, like a very big, like a Cardell Jones. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, what do you guys say we get into this week? But before we do, I want to give a quick social media shout out. If you're watching us right now, that means you know about the YouTube. So thank you very much. If you found us on Twitter, thank you again. But those are probably the 2 best places. We've also got the Facebook and the Twitch. Those 2 really aren't as popping as Twitter is on Saturday, and the YouTube channel, obviously. So go ahead and subscribe while you're here, and share this with a friend. Do all those. Okay, we mentioned the playoffs a little bit, but we've gotten to the point now. We've got 2 regular season games for the most part, conference championship. The way I see it, there are only about 14 teams that still have a shot at making the playoff. Obviously, that's going to pare down some this week, but you look over, Clemson is the only team in the ACC that I think has a shot. LSU, Georgia, Alabama, I think all have a road in. Ohio State, Penn State, and Minnesota, maybe they'll redeem themselves, Lisa, and they'll make a playoff. OU, Baylor, and the Big 12 are the only 2 still alive, and then Utah, Oregon out in the Pac-12. Here's what I want to talk about. Just all these hypothetical situations. of those 14 teams, JJ, are there any that off the bat? I know you kind of said the Big 12 may be done. Are there any of the other team that you don't think have a shot at this point?
Well, it's not I think it's 11 you're talking about, not 14. But I think that
Yeah,
right
that
off
was
the bat, like
11.
I said, yeah,
I went to Oklahoma State, guys. We
Yeah.
didn't counting major. All right.
I think off the bat, I'm sorry to our producer. I think Baylor's done. I don't see a path for Baylor now. I said that
No.
before the week last week that Baylor needed to go undefeated, likely to get in. I think with their
Sure.
non-conference schedule, they didn't do themselves any favor losing the way that they did. I mean, they, as much as they did dominate that first half, they got some turnover luck, which obviously helped, but they were, I mean, thoroughly dominated in the second half. Like, they barely touched the ball on offense. And that is not something that you want to see out of a team that could potentially be in the top four. I think that
So even if they come back 12-1, even with, like you were saying, just the chaos of maybe Oregon plays someone besides Utah and loses, and then Clemson loses somewhere in the way, you still think like an Alabama would jump Baylor?
I think so. I think that the committee would justify it with strength of schedule.
Okay.
And the only thing that I could see going their way is if you would probably need you would probably need Ohio State to lose. You would probably need Wisconsin to win the Big Ten. You would probably need to have LSU would definitely need to win. I think Clemson would definitely need to win. And then I think you would have to hope that you have a 2-loss Pac-12 champion, 2-loss Big Ten champion. I think that's the only way that Baylor would have a chance.
Lisa, what jumps out to you with those 11 teams?
Just looking at the Pac-12, if either Utah or Oregon loses sometime on the way over, I think that hurts the strength of schedule way too much, and they just can't compete.
Yeah, I think I would kind of love to see an Oregon State upset in Oregon. I think that that would be a lot of fun for college football. But absolutely, that would crush the Pac-12 to even to see a 10-2 Oregon play an 11-1 Utah. I think that even that little bit right there would be enough to hurt the Pac-12's chances of getting in. Of those 11 teams, I still see 6 that control their own destiny. Clemson, if they are 13-0, bottom line. LSU, obviously Georgia, if they win the SEC, even at 12-1, I think they're in. Ohio State, Penn State, and Minnesota. We get to see Ohio State, Penn State play this week, so that's going to work itself out. Minnesota still has to play Wisconsin and potentially play one of those 2 teams in the Big Ten championship game. But I think if they win out, I think likely in, especially if they beat Ohio State in that Big Ten championship. I think it's a long shot, but I think that if that's the way that this season shakes out, of those 6 teams, does that kind of make do you guys all agree with that? Is there something that stands out you don't like?
Yeah, one thing. So this is coming from a Penn State fan, but you have us as controlling our own destiny here, but you also have a lot of contingencies that would help us. I think it's pretty simple. If we win out, we're going to be in, and we're going to jump. We're going to jump everybody. We don't need Ohio State to lose 2 games. We don't need a Big 12 Pac-12 champion to have 2 losses. I think if they win out, especially, it's an added bonus if they get to play Minnesota and they get to make the Oklahoma claim from last year that we beat every single team that was on our schedule, even if we had to beat Minnesota in a rematch. Like, we got to beat all 12 teams that were on our schedule. We deserve to be in it. I don't think there's any contingencies there. I think we went out and we're in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty much agree with that, Lisa.
Yeah, I agree with it. Penn State just wins out and they're in.
So what do you think is a more likely scenario, that we see 2 teams from a single conference get in, or that it's the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are both shut out? What do you think at this point those 2 conferences are more or less done at this point?
At least you can go first.
I think the Pac-12 is more likely to be in at this point because there's two teams that have a reasonable chance at it, whereas I don't know. I don't have as much faith in Oklahoma being able to get there.
So if you're looking at a 12-1 Oregon versus say like a 12-1 LSU that just lost the conference championship game, do you think that Oregon will be able to jump that LSU?
12-1 Oregon. I think LSU probably gets the nod because committee really likes Alabama, and
Yeah,
if you beat
so
Alabama at Alabama,
yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
LSU has Arkansas and A&M and the conference championship game on the schedule. Do you see any realistic situation that they don't make a playoff right now?
not really. With that left, I mean, it's Arkansas.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
I think LSU is in as long as they finish the season undefeated. Like they'll have already punched their ticket if they can beat Arkansas and then go to Kyle Field and beat Texas A&M. As long as they do that, they're pretty much punching their spot regardless of what happens against Georgia. And I think that the only way that the Pac-12 is left out is if LSU loses in the conference title game. If LSU loses to Georgia, both LSU and Georgia are in. Clemson wins out, Clemson's in, and then whoever wins the Big Ten, as long as it's not Minnesota, I think Ohio State or Penn State would be in. So in that situation, I think Oregon ends up getting left out.
Oof. I don't know why. I would just love to see Minnesota make a playoff. Anytime you get like just any kind of underdog story like that, even Baylor this year would be a fun story. As much as I just have hated Baylor over the last decade as an Oklahoma State fan, but just seeing some non-traditional team make a playoff.
You look at last year, who was in the playoff. You had Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama, Clemson. Mm-hmm. From a non-fan, if you weren't a fan of any of those teams, could you really muster up the strength to really root for any of those four teams? Like, exactly. It doesn't get much more traditional powerhouse than that. And that's just kind of how the playoff has been. Like, and I think that's something that's missing from the playoff in general. Is I know it's not going to change. If it's a 14 playoff, it's not going to change for the most part. You're not going to get very many Cinderella stories getting in, which is why I'm actually hoping that Utah does get in if we don't get in, because I think that's the closest thing to it.
Yeah,
that's a team that was in the Mountain West Conference, less than a decade ago, and now they're going to be. That's the closest the Group of Five is going to get to being in a 14 playoff.
Okay, we've alluded to it enough, but the day is almost here. We're going to get to one. Penn State and Ohio State actually take it out. Let's look at our noon shots and chasers. What other game besides that could we have as our noon shot? The big noon kickoff on Fox. All of the TV shows rolling into town. College Game Day, big noon kickoff, the Big Ten Network tailgate. They're all going to be there on hand, ready for this game. JJ, do you want it first? Do you want to let Lisa say it? All right, give it to me.
I'll wait. I can hold back a little bit longer.
All right, Lisa. Penn State, they've got their fifth ranked team in their last six games. Do you think they've got enough to the schedule that they've had? Do you think they've got enough to pull it off?
There's no way Penn State pulls this out. I can wish as much as I want. It's not gonna happen. I've been hurt too many times before.
I will say Penn State historically plays Ohio State tough. If you look at the last 3 times they've played, the game has been decided by a combined 5 points from those 3. And so I think that this is going to be a close game. I am very excited for this game. If my game wasn't on it, then I would definitely be devoting full attention to it. But JJ, I know you've got one thing at noon on Saturday, so why don't you break it down?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm paying attention to on Saturday. So I did just argue that if Penn State wins out, they control their own destiny. They don't need Ohio State to lose twice. They don't need anything else to happen. They just need to win out, and they'll be in the playoff. Well, the good news for Will's chart is that's not going to matter because we're not going to win. It's not going to happen. This Ohio State team is actually on a historic level of greatness right now, and I think it's actually going under the radar as much as it possibly can. This is an Ohio State team that is outscoring all of its opponents this year by 417 points. Now, to put that in perspective, that is the most points. That is the largest point differential in the history of the AP poll since going back to the beginning of the AP poll in 1936. No one has ever thoroughly dominated their schedule through 10 games like Ohio State has. Yeah. Going back through the start of the BCS era, so back to 1998, over 2 decades, this is the third best team according to the Sarrigan ratings, which is one of the top computer ratings. This is the third best team that he has rated since they went to the BCS format, only behind that 2001 Miami team and the 2005 Vince Young Texas team. That's it. Wow. Those are the only 2 teams, and that's before they play a top 10 Penn State team. If they beat them and beat them convincingly, it's only going to go up.
Yeah, this has been an incredibly exciting Ohio State team to watch. You've just got playmakers on all sides of the ball. Josh Fields playing incredible. Chase Young, he's 1 sack away from breaking the school record set by Golston. Wait, was that 2017? It was pretty recently, right? Or 7? Yeah. So yeah, this is a great Ohio State team that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And honestly, I'm just kind of sorry, JJ. I'm really excited. I was ready to get past Penn State, get past Michigan, get past the championship game. I'm ready to see these guys and see them match.
It's gonna happen
or something like that.
It's gonna happen, and it's something that our Shots and Chasers content creator Jeff alluded to in the chat earlier this week. As a Penn State fan, it just feels like we're like preemptively hungover. Like we are just, we know it's coming. We've got this sense of doom looming over us that, we can't win this game. It's just, there's just such we lack the experience, we lack the talent, we lack everything. It's just we don't have it. Even if we bring our A+ game and Ohio State brings their C game, I still think that they could win by 2 touchdowns.
Oof, yeah, being in this shoe definitely makes that tough. At least I'll give you the last word game, and then we'll get along there to that Chaser and those Cowboys.
Just want to say that this is the way Michigan feels every year. Welcome to the club. No matter how good your season is, I just gotta ruin it for you.
All right, speaking of ruined seasons, riding high off their upset of Oklahoma. West Virginia brought them back down to earth last week, and they're featured in our Chaser in the noon right there on ESPN2 against my Oklahoma State Cowboys, who are back to their regular uniforms. I was a really big fan of those grays. And breaking news earlier today, it was announced redshirt freshman quarterback Spencer Sanders done for the season. He had thumb surgery, so Drew Brown is getting the start. But don't worry, Drew Brown started 22 games at Hawaii and threw for over 5,000. And not to mention we've got Chuba Hubbard, the best running back in the nation. So we lost. They lost Spencer Sanders. They lost Tylan Wallace. We'll start with you, JJ. Do you think that that's going to be enough for West Virginia to pull off the upset?
I don't. Good news for you, Will. I don't think this is going to be much of a sweat. I think West Virginia got their chaos out on Kansas State last week. I think that West Virginia's offense is not going to score enough points. Oklahoma State. West Virginia's defense has played pretty well this year against some of the lesser offenses in the Big 12, but they haven't done well against all the offenses. They didn't do well against high potent offense like Oklahoma, and I think Oklahoma State's offense isn't that far behind. Even with Drew Brown at quarterback, I think they do pretty well. I think they use it as a tune-up game to get Brown's confidence up for that for when he has to go shot for shot with Jalen Hurts next week in Bedlam.
Oh yeah. Lisa, what do you got on this game?
Yeah, I've kind of got a similar mindset that they went into K-State last week, and they got their upset right there. I guess a once a season thing when you're about where you are.
You got to give West Virginia a lot of credit, though. They have played 9 true freshmen and 12 redshirt freshmen this year, so very clearly a rebuilding year for the Mountain. But OU I can't believe I just did that. Oklahoma. This is what happens when you talk too much college football. You start to lose your identity. Oklahoma State is hitting home runs. Every game they've had 19 across so far this season of 50+ yards, which is the most in the nation. I think it'll be too much for West Virginia to handle. Of course, if it's not, you guys will see I'll probably just go ahead and just skip next week so I don't have to hear. Unless Penn State pulls the upset, I'll tune in just to see your face again, JJ.
Oh yeah.
All right. That's the noon. So before we get on to 3:30, let us remind you again, if you're here on YouTube, thank you. If you found us on Twitter, thanks again. Make sure to us on both of those platforms throughout the week. Watch the shows. You can go back after the game's over and see how bad our calls were. We've had some really bad ones. We've had some really good ones. I feel like we were high on the American Conference before a lot of people. And so also check out the YouTube or the Facebook and the Twitch. But really that Twitter is going to be the key place to be on Saturday as we go ahead and share highlights and commentary from the game. All right, let's move it along to 3 p.m. Baylor welcoming Texas into McLean Stadium. Do you think that they are going to be able to emotionally get up for this? And maybe more importantly, Texas, they've already lost their 4th game of the season. Are they hanging it up? Are they going to be able to do it? Lisa, what do you think about Texas?
I think Texas is gonna give it the good old college try and look pretty good, and then lose on some last-second heartbreaker thing again. It's what their fans have tuned in for all year. Do good, do good, do good, and then 4th quarter, someone on the team disappears. Someone very important. Maybe it's the heart of the team. I'm not sure, but I think Baylor ends up winning.
JJ, talk to me. Have you been disappointed? I think, we talked early about Sam Ehlinger and just the potential he had to really have a massive breakout year. Would you say that maybe we were too high on him, or there have been some external factors that have affected his ability to kind of show up the way we thought he would early in the season?
I think there's been a lot of external factors for him. I mean, he hasn't played poorly. He lost his slot receiver in Eagles pretty early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
They've been going with just one running back pretty much since the LSU game in Ingram, and that's it. They haven't really had a run game. They've relied on him to have run the ball. You're really forcing him to be one-dimensional. You're forcing him to throw to just basically Duvernay at this point, and that's it. That's their best weapon on offense, and it's a good one. But when you've got even Big 12 defenses can take away one person, even a Big 12 defense can take away a pretty good wide receiver. He's not working with a lot, and the defense hasn't done him a whole lot of favors either in a lot of games. I don't think he's done as well as he could have, but given the situation, he has had his hands tied pretty good here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Baylor is a better team than Texas is, and I think that playing at home, they've got to kind of have a chip on their shoulder, understanding that if they want to have any shot whatsoever at making a playoff, that they have got to win the rest of their schedule convincingly.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about. Go ahead.
I kind of agree. I in a lot of cases, I would think that a team, after losing the way that they did, would fold. And I think there's still a decent chance that could happen. But I have a lot of faith in Matt Rule as a coach, that he's going to be able to rally them and win against a team that they haven't had a lot of success with over the series that they've played over 100 times. They haven't had a lot of success. They want to win this game. I think that they get it done despite the massively obvious letdown situation that they're in.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Okay, our 3 p.m. chaser, back to the American. Like I said, we've been really into the American all. We did a whole segment on it earlier, and this has just been a fun conference. Navy, last week's game against Notre Dame, not so fun to watch. But they've got a chance now playing SMU. SMU, who has just been rolling, ran into that speed bump there with Memphis. I really like what SMU is bringing to the table. And they have one of the best offenses in their school history, averaging 45 points per game. If they finish that'll be 6 or 7 points better than any SMU team has ever done in school history. JJ, what do you think about SMU and Navy?
Man, that stat about them being a touchdown better than any of their offense there, that's saying something. Going back to the Pony Express days, that they didn't do better. Like 45 points per game is a lot. That's a lot. Their offense is legitimate, but we also know that their defense is got some holes. It definitely has some holes. And I think that one of the best ways to stop a high potent offense is to keep them on the bench. You keep them on the bench, and that's something that Navy will definitely be able to do against a not so good defense. For sure. I think Navy wins this game. I think Navy wins this game for that reason. I think that they can get Shane Buechele a little out of his rhythm by keeping him on the sidelines for long periods of time. And they'll be able to ball control this into a victory and take a step towards potentially backing their way in to a conference title berth.
Okay. Now, I would be having our very own FCS expert on the panel today if we didn't at least talk about some of those. And man, have we got a great FCS game that, as great as an FCS game can be. Guys, the best rivalry name in all color, the Brawl of the Wild, Montana State. What a great season it is for it to number 3 Montana at number 8 Montana State. If this were an FBS game, like this is basically Auburn LSU, it feels like, or Auburn Alabama or LSU. This is going to be a great game, and we have the perfect person. Lisa, break it down for us. What are we looking for? This game is on at 2:00. I want to say. Is it on real TV? Do we have to get our shortwave radios out and listen to it? How do
some Oklahoman's Periscope maybe?
Big Sky's got. They have some streaming service. I'm trying to remember what it is. That's not one that I use very often. But the game itself should be really fantastic.
You're really selling this.
Isn't that such a problem? This is a top 10 FCS matchup, and the rest of the country can't watch it.
Well, at least Big Sky's got a real streaming service. Like poor Colonial is stuck with Flow Sports.
I think I did see this game. It is somewhere on DirecTV. If you have DirecTV, you should be able to find it. But break down the game for us. Tell somebody who doesn't know anything about the FCS, what can we look for in this game?
As you said, this is like the rivalry game for Big Sky. Big Sky is currently like second or third best conference, so it's more like the game in terms of strengthness. The winner of this will probably they will get a seed for sure in the FCS playoffs, which is 24 teams, and 8 of them get buys for the first week.
Such a better system.
I could go for days on how much I like it better, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, the winner will get a seed. The loser might end up with one anyways if it's Montana. but it's gonna decide quite a lot for two teams that hate each other.
Yeah. And your team as well, it plays in this time slot. Which one are you going to be watching?
I will be watching my own Bison play against the Salukis of Southern Illinois. Um, Salukis are on a hot streak, so it might give us a fight, but it should be another relatively easy victory for the Bison, and then we'll get up to 33 straight, which will tie our FCS record.
Oh, so you're in North Dakota, right? So you can probably watch that game on Pulse, or
Yep.
how does that work?
It is public access. It's also on
Oh, I was
ESPN Plus. Hey now. Our TV announcers aren't the greatest, but we do have our own intro song. It's this like jangy number that they play before games, like Sunday Night Football. It's a Bison football one. It's pretty great.
I feel like that needs to be on Twitter right now.
That's
I'll find
great.
it and then show it. Yeah.
I love it. So who you guys are still number one, obviously. Looking at what you said, 33, and that ties your school record. What's the FCS record for wins?
That is the FCS record for wins.
That would be the FCS. So you guys are going to be going for OU's record, right?
Yeah. We're going for OU. Presuming we get through this playoff season and we beat Oregon next year,
Oof.
which that's possible. Oregon's losing their quarterback.
And a lot of talent.
And a lot of talent. Don't sleep on the Bison.
I don't think any FBS team should ever sleep on the Bison.
No, they shouldn't. They should schedule us, though. They really should.
Hashtag consider Bison.
Yeah. Well, our
All right.
athletic director gets hung up on, so.
If you frequent the subreddit, is the best. Is decided they're not going to initiate naming. Got me thinking about all the bowl games and the great bowl names and the really awful bowl, and who could fill the shoes of the Belk Bowl. I will say, Belk as a department store is probably JJ for that bowl game.
I like Bojangles to do it. I think they're a North Carolina staple. They've got their tagline is bow time, so now it's just bowl time, right? They're ready to go for that. It writes itself. Like it would be an like President Trump rolled out the fast food for Clemson. Whoever gets to go to the Bojangles Bowl will get some good fast food.
It's got tea. Yeah, I like it. The bowl jangle. I don't know. Cookout comes to mind. Just thinking back to all of the nights of my wife and I, we would go exercise just so we could go get a cookout tray because they're just awful for you, but so good. I don't know, Lisa. What do you think? Who replaced the Belk Bowl as the title sponsor there?
I like the bowl jangles thing. We don't have either of those up here, so. Bowl jangles seems like a pretty
It's a sad
great
life.
It's a sad life.
Oh, you
Not that sad.
sweet summer child. Named and like the bad boy.
Someone sponsoring a college football game is SoFi Student Lending. I don't want to see that anywhere near a college football game. I don't want that anywhere near in my mind when I'm watching a college football game. I have
You
to
could
deal
be
with my
one of those
student loans
guys
enough.
that you could be one of those guys that has to hit like a 50-yard field goal to get his student debt repaid.
Why would you ruin the Hawaii Bowl with such a terrible sponsor? It's what
It's
I
so
look
bad.
forward to on Christmas Eve, and now I don't even know if I can watch it. But that's not true. I'm obviously going to watch it, but I'm going to be mad about it.
The bowl games have such an interesting situation, and poor Lisa doesn't know the plight like we because they get a real playoff and we just have to go scrap it out on these garbage bowl games. You look at the MAC, and the MAC champion is going to the Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, it's so bad.
What incentive is that? You almost think they're gonna like that. Western Michigan is going to throw that game so they can go to Boca or the Bahamas.
I also think it's wrong that I think that every Group of 5 conference champion should get to play some Power 5 team of some sort. Even if it's a 6-6 Power 5 team, they should get a chance at a Power 5 team. I think it's wrong that the Sun Belt champion and the MAC champion have to play each other. There's enough Power 5 bowl teams that they should be able to afford that.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa, what's your take on the bowls?
I mean, as long as there's enough bowls to go around for everybody, like Wyoming is kind of another G5 school that I've been following due to coach theft. And they got left out last year, and they did perfectly fine. They deserve to have gone bowling with their head coach, Craig Bowl, and Craig Bowl did not get to go bowling.
That's just a wordplay crime.
It is.
It really is. It's a missed opportunity. Okay, 7 p.m., Shots and Chasers. Back to the American. Temple at Cincinnati. Cincinnati looking great this year after what was a pretty ugly loss to Ohio State, who turned out to be world beat. Temple not looking so good, but Cincinnati had a slip up last week. They had to come back after trailing to a pretty bad USF team. JJ, this is kind of your stomping grounds. What do you think? Does Temple have enough to get it?
I think they do. I think they do have enough. I mean, Cincinnati hasn't looked great. I mean, they for a 9-1 team whose only losses to I've already talked about a great Ohio State team. They've escaped Tulsa, ECU, and South Florida in 3 of the last 4 weeks in games that they very easily could have lost. Yeah. I'm starting to think that Ohio State, like at the end of games, is just like slipping them some magic from their great season to like keep their strength of schedule up, because it doesn't make sense that they're pulling out some of these games. I don't think that they lose this week. I think Temple has enough. I just don't think we kind of talked about it last week. Temple's not a great road team. They're better at home. I don't think that they'll have enough to go on the road to beat them. But I think Cincinnati will definitely be in for a rude awakening next Friday when they go to play Memphis in Memphis.
Oof. Yeah, those Friday night games get a little spooky. Lisa, there's a 90% chance of rain on Saturday. It's not snow, so maybe, and we don't get it like you guys do. So it's going to be a wet and sloppy game. Who do you think that favors more, Cincinnati or?
I think Cincinnati keeps getting away with it. Whether getting away with it means by multiple touchdowns or not, I'm not as sure, but I think Cincy definitely wins.
Yeah. Definitely the better ground game of the two, I think. Michael Warren is got over 800 rushing yards on the season, and their quarterback, he'll tuck it and run. He's done it over 100 times this year. So I think Cincinnati has enough to do it. I think they'll be fine. And like you said, maybe they'll get a little bit of Ohio State shift over just enough magic Penn State to make something happen. Who knows? 7 p.m. chaser over on Fox. That's TCU at Oklahoma. Oklahoma needs to win big, win convincingly, and leave no in the minds. We're really looking for second half versus Baylor, Oklahoma, and not first half. JJ, this is the first step that they have to take to prove to the committee that if they win out, they deserve a slot. But TCU has been known to give teams some trouble in the past. Gary Patterson, you can't count him out. They don't have
Yeah.
the talent, I don't think, to run with OU. You never know what's it gonna take for TCU to pull it off.
Well, I think it's going to take them. It's going to take their freshman quarterback not making mistakes. Oklahoma famously ended their 5-game turnover drought against Baylor, so it's not a defense. It's part of TCU's problem is Max Duggan turns the ball over a lot, and hopefully he plays this week because that'll give them their best chance to win. But Oklahoma obviously doesn't take the ball away that much, so that kind of negates Duggan's biggest weakness. If Duggan can continue to use his legs to move the ball and can find receivers down the field like Jalen Rieger, I think that they'll have a chance to keep it close. Their defense isn't the same defense that they've had in years past.
But they are still number one in the conference.
Yes. That doesn't say much, but yes, they are the number one defense in the conference. But the big thing for Oklahoma, they actually still have to clinch their spot in the Big 12 title game, I believe, right? They if they lose out, they lose their spot to maybe Oklahoma State. So they have to win this game to clinch their spot.
Lisa, what do you have?
I think it depends not so much on TCU, but on which Hurts quarterback shows up. Is it first half Hurts or second half Hurts?
Is it cable? Is it public access games Hurts? Or is
Because if he comes out and looks like not great, I think Oklahoma's gone. Even if they do win.
Yeah, did y'all watch that Baylor game? How weird was that fumble? It kind of looked like he was going down and he just put his hand with the ball down to kind of brace himself, and then he just kept running without the football. Probably one of the weirdest fumbles I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and then I watched Carson Wentz do the same thing against the Patriots. I don't know. I don't know why quarterbacks think it's a good idea to put the ball on the ground, but it's usually not how you score points. But maybe I don't know enough about football.
Typically, going places without the football is bad. Duncan, our producer, thinks he was
you're supposed to have the football.
You're supposed to have the football. Duncan believes he was scared at the time. I think he figured it out at the half and was unscared in the second half well enough to come back. 28-3. What a deficit. No team come back from that deficit before. What a magical moment in football history.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely no other important games have ever seen that happen before.
No,
I can't think of any.
Hasn't happened twice either, definitely.
Yeah.
JJ, why don't you tell people where they can find us?
Yeah, if you're watching us now, you obviously found us on YouTube. But again, as we said earlier in the show, if you really want to find us, you should be following us on Twitter. We have lots of fun live tweeting, some videos that you can watch from some of the biggest plays of the week. It's a good follow. You'll hopefully get some good interaction from some of the hosts and some other people that follow the Twitter page. And then also, just last week, we put up the website, fromthestands.us.
That's right.
Content is starting to go up. If you want to contribute, we're always looking for writers. Whether you have a great take or a shitty take, we'll put it up there. So So come and join the Discord and get writing.
Awesome. Hey guys, I have a slight confession to make this week. I didn't want to do it, but we have put up our Christmas trees. And not only do we have the Christmas trees up, this Christmas tree that you see behind me is all decked out in orange and black, Oklahoma State, and all of this holiday season festivity got me thinking about mall Santas. And when you go to a mall Santa, you're always asking, when you're a kid and you go to see Santa for the first time, you're talking, what do you want from Santa the most as a college football fan? If you're going to go see your mall Santa, JJ, what are you asking for this year from good old Saint Nick there in the mall?
This is going to upset some people, but I am rooting for Alabama to get in the playoff over a one-loss conference champion. I'm rooting for it in hopes that we get rid of this 4-team playoff because it has only made the debate that much worse. It's only made the debate that much worse for who's supposed to be getting a shot to win a championship.
So you're basically praying for just utter chaos.
Yes, I'm praying for chaos, and I know there's a lot of arguments out there that we're trying to find the best team, but I like everybody else. I watch college football to be entertained, so I want to watch some more entertaining matchups. I want to see a David versus Goliath where a David knocks off Goliath, right? We don't have that right now. And like I said earlier, we had a 4-team playoff with Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Alabama last year. Does that really, other than the fact that it's going to be a college football game, no matter when you're watching a game, you always want to have a team that you root for over another. It was really hard to pick a team last year. And I don't want it to be that way. And I think adding more teams would help. It would help a team like a Baylor or Minnesota get a chance and be the people's underdog. So that's what I'm ready for.
And two, like, what a better than having a quantifiable way of saying who's earned. Hey, if you win your conference, you're in the playoff. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you win your conference, you have a spot in our playoffs. And if you're Ohio State and you're 12-1, guess what? We will still have a spot for you guys. If you don't win your conference, just some weird situation. I like it. Yeah, Santa, bring us some chaos. Lisa, what are you asking Santa for this year?
The ultimate wish would be, of course, a Michigan victory over Ohio State. But when Santa laughs at me, I would just ask for NDSU to break the win streak record that Oklahoma holds, because that's far more realistic.
Santa might laugh at first. But I will say Michigan has been the quietest 12th ranked team we've ever seen. We wrote them off early in the season, and all they've done the past 6 weeks is win. So they're building momentum. They're working towards something. I'll be interested to watch that game and see how it shakes out. All right, my Mall Santa, I think if I'm going to go, I'm really looking for a non-Bama Clemson playoff game for the first time in 5 years or something crazy like that. I'm just kind of sick of it. I'm a little over it, to be honest. I'm really excited to see Ohio State and LSU play each other. I think that's going to be a really fun game. Kind of makes me think of the Florida State-Oregon national championship game a couple of years back. That was a fun game to watch because those teams were so good. I'm just getting a little burnout. I think that was one of the first things that we said in the preseason. I'm just burnt out.
We don't want to see it. Yeah, we don't want to see it again, and hopefully we get that this year. It looks like we're going to get that this year at least.
Yeah, I think as everything's shaken out, especially with the Tua injury, LSU kind of coming. I don't want to say from out of nowhere, but just seeing LSU really blossom into the team that they have. I think that's kind of helped us out. I'm excited for some good games.
Yeah, I don't think it's LSU coming out of nowhere. It's Joe Burrow coming out of nowhere because the rest of the LSU team was always there. But having a quarterback that can go toe for toe with Tua, when he was able to play, that was the difference.
Yeah, Duncan just fact checked me. That was the Auburn Florida State game was the one, the Jameis Winston one. That was the last BCS championship game. That was just a fun game. And so, looking for a little bit more parity in the play. Would love to see an expansion. I think whatever that, I'd have to look and see what the TV contracts are at right now. But I think that's going to be the minimum that we'd have to wait. So there it is, a little Mall Santa there. The holiday season on us. Probably look for more holiday themed segments in the future. That's your big present from Santa. Do you guys have any little stocking presents that you're looking for? I'd love to see Minnesota make the Big Ten game because that was my on a limb prediction preseason. And to see that one come true would be pretty cool.
For me, I think if Penn State just beats Ohio State, that'd be pretty all right.
That's a little bit more than a stocking
Is
gift.
it a little bit more than a stocking gift? I don't know. I think I'm gonna put it on my list, and maybe he won't laugh at me as hard as he laughs at Lisa, but he'll probably still laugh at me.
My stocking gift is probably a bigger ask than JJ's. I want Michigan to not play Florida in their bowl game this year. It's not gonna happen.
That's pretty good. That's good. In the Outback Bowl, right?
Yep.
All right, 10 o'clock, shots and chasers. If your blood is still pumping from that Temple Cincinnati game and you just can't get to sleep, we've got a good one for you over in the Pac-12. Utah at Arizona. I think a lot of us have been, again, disappointed at Arizona. We Khalil Tate was going to actually come into his own, but Utah really comes into this one on a collision course with Oregon. They've got Utah and then Colorado. Oregon's already clinched the North. Utah's really needs these two games to clinch the South. But do you think that they could potentially already be looking ahead to Oregon, Jay?
If they are, I don't think it matters. I think we saw Oregon looking ahead last week when they played Arizona, and even then, they still won by 28 points. This Arizona offense looks listless. It doesn't look like it knows who should be getting the ball. They're swapping quarterbacks in and out. Utah's defense is legit, and I don't know that Arizona. I don't think Arizona reaches double-digit points. I think that this is going to be a blowout. I think it's going to further get Utah on everyone's radar. That they are just as good as Oregon. And I didn't believe it coming into the year. And I don't think they were this good at the start of the year. I think they've really grown into being a very good team as the season has gone on.
Yeah, they're another one of those quiet 9-1 teams.
Absolutely.
Still kind of not really sure who they are, maybe because 12 puts all their damn games at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lisa, what do you think about this one over in the Pac-12 South?
Utah is definitely more solid as the season's gone on. And then their only losses actually looked a little bit better as USC is slowly climbing the ranks as well. And Arizona is just not good.
Yeah, and lucky for our viewers, we finally got screen. And so they're not traveling to Eugene. We'll put that one on Duncan. He's still a little hungover from the Baylor game, I guess. Over in the Mountain West, we got Boise State at Utah State. All the states playing the state. Anything stick out to you on this one, JJ?
I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think everyone kind of assumes, Boise State's going to, find a way to win this one, continue on towards their path of being compared head to head with whoever the AAC champion is. But Utah State at home here is going up against a Boise State team that hasn't looked great in recent weeks. They've had some questions at quarterback. They've started 3 different quarterbacks over the past few weeks due to injury problems. Boise State needs to win this in order to host the Mountain West Championship game.
Yes. How interesting is that they let the top seed host the game? I think great idea. Because I'm kind of
they do
like neutral site games kind of.
Yeah, they do that in the American as well. I think it's a good thing for college football. No one wants to watch a game played in an NFL stadium. They just don't. They want to watch. They want to watch on a college campus. And that's where they're going to get to play. Hopefully, we get to see that. But I actually think Utah State has a chance to pull this one out with Love at Utah State, the quarterback. He's kind of gone under the radar this year after having a pretty good year last year. I think they have a chance. I think it's all going to depend on who actually plays the quarterback position for Boise State.
Yeah, Lisa, is Jordan Love the best quarterback name in college football?
It's pretty good, but I'm rather fond of the NDSU quarterback. Last name of Lance.
The Lance. That's good.
Well,
what do you think about this game?
Yeah, this game, I think Boise State will probably pull it out in the end, but it'll be back and forth at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, since Matt Wells left, I kind of thought there'd be a bigger drop at Utah State. It hasn't been that bad, but I don't think they have enough to match up this one. What's really interesting is typically when a team wins the turnover battle, they win the game, right? Pretty, universally accepted. Boise State this year 7-1 when they lose the turnover battle. So
Wow.
it just kind of shows you the horses they have, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Maybe a little intended. And so I think they've got enough to go ahead and take this, and they're going to end up hosting the game. All right, we do it every single week. We carve out 12 seconds for our least favorite conference. I know we had a couple of games on the Shots and Chasers, but JJ, are you ready for your Pac-12 seconds?
All right, I'm ready. Bring it.
All right, I'll key you in. Ready, set, go.
All right, got to go with Oregon State this week. They've got a chance to become bowl eligible for the first time in a very, very long time. All they have to do is beat the conference's meme champion and Mike Leach. This is going to be a really fun one.
Shut it down.
Oregon State gets it done.
That's enough. I will say, Pac-12, don't you screw this up for us. I want to see the Beavers in the bowl game. I've been kind of like a weird, you know how like when you beat a team and you're like, I really hope they do well the rest of this. That's kind of been me with the Beavers this year, going up to Oregon State and checking them out. All right, let's pull up the viewer's guide and recap these games that we have here. Obviously, that noon kickoff is going to be a really big one. And then after that, it kind of seems like unless you have a real interest, you can kind of go about your day. JJ, what do you think?
My storyline is going to be that I'm not going to pay attention to them because I'm going to be curled up in a ball, probably. Very hungover, most likely. So I'm not really going to pay attention to what the Sunday storylines are.
Lisa, what do you think about this lineup right here?
Yeah, the first one is pretty solid. Then I get my Bison in the second one, and then from there I can watch whatever sounds interesting on a whim.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to just what the Pac or the Big 12 has going on, and just seeing how Baylor and OU both respond to those crazy games they had last. And then Sunday morning when you wake up, what's the storyline you're going to be looking forward to mostly?
I'm not looking forward to it. It's going to be a nightmare, but Ohio State is who we thought they were, as they just wreck Penn State in the shoe.
Yeah. Well, can we stop talking about this now, please? I'm going to
cry. It's not that bad. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. This gets us 1 week closer to the conference championship games, and just getting to see all these teams really duke it out is just very exciting for the college football fan who, like me, we've got a 20-something ranked team, and that's pretty much, I'm pretty happy with that. So whatever else happens in the college football year is all good, because, I don't really have a real vested interest this year. So that's the show for you guys. I do want to give a thank you to Lisa for joining us. We have a college football girl. There are literally dozens of you, and we got one on our show. So thank you so much for joining us, bringing the FCS and getting injecting a little Bison into JJ. Oh man, good luck to you. Really, I don't want to say I'm rooting for you, but I'm rooting for you. But
I'm hoping I pull through.
Whatever happens, hopefully you'll make it through. Very good slate of games. This is what we look for in mid-November. Are these juggernauts slugging it out? So thanks for joining us. Say goodbye, everybody, and we'll see you next week on From the Stands.
See you, everybody.